Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the Spotlight. This is program or show number 25. 25 weeks. Can you believe we've been doing it that long? This is our weekly show, Wednesday afternoons, broadcast from Cafe Rio here at the Joint Boutique Hotel and Cowork. And this is a show about you. This is an opportunity for you to come here and tell us about the events you're producing, about the products and services you develop for the Puerto Vallarta community, about the nonprofit organization that you feel so excited about, whatever goes. And today I am so very happy to welcome a new friend, but a wonderful human being that I met through my music appreciation presentations. He started attending, we struck a conversation, and then we realized we had a lot of things in common. His name is Stan Wagner, and he is in town doing something that I think a lot of you are going to be interested in knowing more about. It is called neurofeedback. So I'd like to welcome Stan. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Paco?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good because you wire me every week.
Every week you're wired.
Well, every week I'm wired, but you wire me in a very special way. Before we get into the specifics, let me remind everyone that is watching, here's a great opportunity to learn about something that is really wonderful for the mind, body, and spirit. So as always, please feel free to ask as many questions as you'd like. It helps a lot if they add a capital letter Q at the beginning. And if you're completely new to the broadcast or to the Spotlight, rather, and you'd like to a nice little welcome, just write the capital letter N for new, and we'll give you a nice hello. Okay, Stan. We met at Music Appreciation. Then we learned about neurofeedback. But tell me first and foremost, what is your connection to Puerto Vallarta?
Well, one of my connections now is you and your music appreciation. It's such a wonderful series of enrichment for people who come from north of the border and want to make connection and learn. It's a tremendous enriching opportunity. So I really thank you for that. And then we struck up a conversation around our common interests in music, and then here we are. I landed here in Mexico with my husband about 4 years ago, and at that point I was starting neurofeedback, but my background actually is in architecture and engineering and construction, focusing on efficient buildings, sustainability, but really healthy buildings. So thinking like 21st century education, hospitals that have better healthcare outcomes. That was my interest in my previous life, north of the border. But then moving down here, I kind of wanted to dial it in. Instead of talking about buildings and people and community, I wanted to focus on individuals. And it was through neurofeedback. So neurofeedback, Puerto Vallarta neurofeedback was born about 2 years ago, just starting out like baby steps. And about 6 months ago, we actually signed a lease for office space in a beautiful, serene location called Rancho Ojo de Agua, which you've been to.
Yes, we'll have plenty of opportunity to look at that. Yeah. Let's go slow because I have so many questions.
Yes.
Why did you and your husband choose Puerto Vallarta, and how long ago was that?
Oh gosh, we've been coming here since 2008. And we were coming here once a year, then twice a year, and 4 times and 6 times a year. And at that point, we said, we probably need to buy a place. And so we bought a place, and it was our very first condo here, and we loved it. But then we, because we have, a grumble of pugs, which a grumble of pugs is more than 3. And so we have a grumble of pugs, and we have a house over in Independencia, beautiful little area. And we moved here because we're of the age where we could start looking at, what was our next chapter in life. And for both Rob and I, it made sense to be down here and kind of explore really what our next rounds of passions might be. We're like, be about. And for me, it was around individuals and how I could help individuals through neurofeedback.
And how did you discover neurofeedback?
I was doing publicity and PR for them and marketing for them. So it's an interesting story in that here I am providing marketing services for neurooptimal neurofeedback, and they said, in order for you to promote it, you need to know it. And so I took a session, just as you've taken sessions, and it really spoke to me. It helped me to kind of regulate my own emotions. And so I started digging deeper into it and became certified in neurofeedback. And then kind of things took off. And so we're busy down here and also north of the border too.
So you're answering questions that I'm sure I would have if I was watching the spotlight. One of them being that you become certified to provide the services or the sessions of neurofeedback. It's not something that requires a medical career, correct?
Certainly. So neurooptimal neurofeedback is a type of neurofeedback that the technology is built into the laptop. And so I'm basically a trainer in neurofeedback. And I think that's really important because, the distinctions between the two types of neurofeedback, there's a linear type of neurofeedback, which has been around for decades. And it certainly has its place and has done wonderful things for individuals. Neurooptimal neurofeedback is a dynamical type of neurofeedback, meaning that it's not invasive. You don't need a diagnosis. It's available for really anyone, anytime, and it can do no harm. In that, when you're monitoring the brain activity, you're simply monitoring brain activity, and the feedback is music. And the music has skips or interruptions, almost like a record player, for those of our generation who might remember a record player and skips. That's what you hear in the music. So you'll hear a melody, much like Enya or Cirque du Soleil, but there'll be skips or interruptions, and that's what's training your brain to operate differently. It provides a little bit of discomfort for the brain, saying, okay, I need to kind of get back on track, and helps you to get out of ruts of how your brain might be operating.
Why don't we break down the whole process of starting a series of sessions? I remember when I started, and I think I've had, 4 or 5 sessions already?
Yes.
When I started, you took a detailed inventory of what concerned me. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So we want to create a baseline, and people, I'll take a step back, because I get a phone call from individuals. They'll say, I'm interested in neurofeedback. And my question is, why? And oftentimes these stories are so varied, but yet have a common theme of I'm just at the end of my rope. I have this great sadness or anxiety. People will share their life stories. They might be going through some difficult times or have gone through difficult times in the past. And so they've looked at other types of mental health solutions, and they've come across neurofeedback. And so I offer the overview of neurofeedback and how it can help. And then they come in for a visit, and we do an inventory, right? And it might be, I'm asking them, what are your concerns? And we have a list of concerns, 1 through 101. And we break out we discuss those concerns and kind of determine which ones are of greatest concern. And then we kind of rank those concerns based upon it's called a diff. And that is the duration and intensity and frequency. So we're adding information around each concern. So you might have issues or concerns around sleeplessness or anxiety.
That would be me.
Yes, right, yes. You might have behavioral concerns, and I mentioned anxiety or forgetfulness. You might have a loss for words. You might also have interactions that you are concerned about in terms of perhaps anger, frustration. It really is all not only behavioral concerns, but also physical concerns, fatigue, and things like that. So we look at all these holistically, all these concerns that you have, and then we put some metrics around them so we have a good baseline. And from there, then you have your first session, right? And your first session is pretty simple. A session is 33 minutes from start to end. It's a musical journey that you listen to, and while you're having a session, you can sleep, you can meditate, you can read email. It really doesn't matter what you're doing as long as you're receiving the feedback through the music of the interruptions. That's what's helping to train your brain.
Let's segue for a second, because I think this would be a great moment to talk a little bit about your wonderful facility. And I'd like to bring it up on the screen because I think there's a whole Puerto Vallarta story to tell there. First of all, here's where the treatments take place. This place is called Rancho Ojo de Agua. And this is in Aramara, right? No,
Arias?
Jardín de las Araras. Yes, in fact, I took a little Google Maps shot of it, and I highlighted the property. This is a property that, as I understand it, used to be its own little ranch out in the suburbs, but of course it got surrounded by the urban growth of the city. But I cannot move but if you see on the screen, if you're watching it, you're looking at the screen, at that vertical avenue that is on the left side, kind of tilted a little bit, that is Avenida de las Torres. So you get into this particular place, and this is what no, that's not it. This is what the front looks like. Now, tell us a little bit about what else is going on in this property, or how did you discover it?
So this is a real gem of a property. So it's a ranch that's been around for, gosh, 100 years. And it's something that it's in urban Puerto Vallarta. And you can miss it by simply driving by the British American School and not turning down the right street. But I happened to stumble upon this ranch. I walked through the ranch and got a sense of the activities that were going on. They have a osteopath there. They have a dental facility there. They also have a yoga facility as well as an art studio. So it was the art studio that happened to be open, and I walked in and I said, I'm interested in renting space here. It turns out that was the daughter of the owners of the property, and she said, let me call my mom. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Like, this is moving faster than what I would anticipate.
Okay.
And then she says, my mom will meet with you in 15 minutes. Okay.
That is a sign.
Yeah, it is a sign.
That is a sign.
So then I met with I met with the owner, and we had an hour conversation, and I shared our backgrounds and what we're interested in, and I shared about neurofeedback. And so we were learning about one another, and I learned about their concepts of what they wanted to do to reimagine the ranch. It had been a ranch for many years for horse rides up into the mountains. But through 9/11 and the kind of just the changes in travel preferences, that could kind of diminished, and they wanted to see how they could reactivate the ranch. And they thought that neurofeedback would be a great complementary addition to what they already have there.
And how's it going?
We're great neighbors. We have a lot of cross collaboration between the different services that are there, and so we're just we're about 4 months into our space there, but I'm thrilled to be there. It's a serene environment. There's lots of lush green trees. You can have neurofeedback sessions when it's cooler out in the ranch outdoors. There's also opportunities for us to collaborate with the art gallery and the art studio, where they work with metal and wood and clay.
That sounds absolutely wonderful. And I do want to, as long as you talked about the greenery, this image does not do the space justice, because right here, we're looking at barely no foliage on the area of the ranch. And of course, I was there for my latest session this past Monday. And with all the rain, it is just a beautiful, serene location. And then, of course, here is your actual building, which is as you enter into the property right on the left side. It is not difficult to miss. And I took these photos. This is the place where the treatment takes place. I remember that the first time I went, you gave me the choice of laying down or sitting, and I saw that chair. And I thought to myself, as a cat owner, I will never own a chair like that. And I immediately wanted to take over. And it's my preferred place to get the treatment. And just for anyone out there that has never experienced this, I insisted on some selfies. This is you applying some sensors to my head, and other sensors get attached to the ear. And I think I have another photograph. Yes. And of course come the headphones.
Yes.
And yes, the treatment is, what is it, 35 minutes?
33 minutes.
33 minutes. So picture this, you're lying there. I remember the first time I was sitting there and I did fall asleep, and I woke myself up because I started to snore, and I'm like, shit, this is so embarrassing. But then just a little bit of a testimonial, and this sounds, I hate it if this sounds like I'm selling it, but it's working for me. It's so amazing because after 4 sessions, we went back and looked at my initial readings, and there were some changes. My personal issues have to do with not being able to fall asleep and with the anxiety that results when I wake up and then I'm not able to go back to sleep. But it's changing, it's helping, and I'm loving it.
You know, when we have a client come in, we oftentimes take a video of them the first or second time, and that can be challenging because they're coming in and they're often just sad, right? They're confused. They're wondering about neurofeedback, and I said, so we'll take a video. It can be even on your phone, and let's just talk about you and why you came to neurofeedback. And so we take that video. And then after 5 or 10, 15 sessions, whenever they decide that they've had enough sessions, we watch that video again as kind of a departing gift, right? And we say, here's you 15 sessions ago or 10 sessions ago, and they transformed. They've come oftentimes and they're hunched over and just kind of beaten down, right? You just get the sense that life's been tough. And through neurofeedback, you have the opportunity to self-regulate. You self-regulate your emotions, and so that it doesn't change your life, but it helps you to react to life differently. So you have different reactions to what happens generally in life, and they're different reactions. So, like I said, it doesn't change your life, but it helps you to manage life differently.
You know, to that point, yeah, there's still times in which I have a difficult time falling asleep, and there's still times in which I wake up in the middle of the night. And the reaction factor is definitely something that resonates with me, because instead of getting up in the middle of the night and thinking to myself, how on earth am I going to go fall asleep again? And then that just lingers for hours. My mindset has shifted to, okay, it happened again. So tomorrow might be a curious day, and I'm just going to do my best with the circumstances.
I think that's exactly right. Like, not getting wound up, helping yourself to offer different outcomes, right, than what you might be programmed to. So it's kind of like driving down a road or a well-worn road, and you're kind of in a rut. So it's a road that you've been down many times. You know it. It's familiar, but you don't know how to get out of it. And this allows you to not to move out of that rut, so that you can make different choices, have different reactions. I've seen tremendous results from individuals, from couples. One person might come in and want to deal with things like maybe fibromyalgia, and the spouse will join in neurofeedback because it's something that the spouse is responding to the issues of our client, and so it kind of makes sense for them to join in so that they can also have different responses. We've seen it in children and parents. So oftentimes when we rent out a device to a family for the child who might be exhibiting ADD or ADHD, and the mother is at wit's end, right? My child is a wild child and won't participate in schoolwork, won't do schoolwork, won't understand no as a response, and through neurofeedback, children are able to engage with their peers on it and have different responses. They're doing their homework. Children can do their homework while doing neurofeedback. So you're combining two chores at one time. But then also, parents are also doing neurofeedback so that they can respond differently to their children. And what I've heard and seen is basically moms have said, my child was a wild child and they'd want to play in the mud and I'd say no and they'd go berserk, right? Have a little tantrum. Now, after neurofeedback, the child comes in and wants to do something and they get the same no, and the mom can see it in their eyes. They can see something going on and the child's response will be okay, right? So it's surprising to everyone.
Well, here's an interesting thought, because the beautiful thing I'm hearing you say is that neurofeedback can help people with a broad variety of circumstances. But at the same time, I'm wondering if anybody that is watching, and hello to everybody that is watching, I'm wondering if anybody watching is asking themselves, is this for me? So if I was to ask you, I ran into you at a party, or people may be wondering, is neurofeedback right for me? How do you handle that question?
I start by saying I was a skeptic. I was a skeptic of neurofeedback. I thought, well, 33 minutes, is it just meditation that's doing providing the benefit? And then I got certified. And so I understand the technology and the research that's gone into it, so that I'm now a believer, not only because I've seen the change, my personal transformation, but transformation of people in the Puerto Vallarta area who've come to me with concerns, down and out and confused and feeling like the world has lost its color. And through these individual sessions and experiences, the colors come back to individuals. There are so many stories to tell that tug at my heart. And because of that, I know I've made the right move here, especially with neurofeedback, providing it as a service, because it has literally transformed lives in gentle, nudging ways.
I do remember, and if you're not ready to discuss this, that's cool. But I do remember that at some point in a conversation we had, you mentioned something about reaching out to local agencies. Is this something that has happened or will happen, or are we ready to talk about this or not yet?
No, we can. So it's taken a page from what's happening north of the border. So we have a nonprofit north of the border called First Responder Neurofeedback, focused purely on first responders. That's it. That's the market. And we're taking a page from that, and we want to apply that down here for the first responders, because they see trauma day in and day out. And this is something that I feel, it's proven that first responders, they can react better. They have better decision making, which is what we all want from our first responders as they're helping the community. So we've reached out to a few organizations down here, haven't quite made the match yet in terms of how we're going to provide those services, which we're gifting to the community, because it just makes sense to do that. So we haven't quite made that match yet, but we're working on that.
That is excellent. Speaking of gifting to the community, there's going to be a giveaway at the end of this broadcast, so don't go away if this is starting to speak to you. And speaking of speak to you, let's take a second and see what kind of questions we are getting and who is watching. Let's have a look. I see friends. I love the hellos. I saw a new person. Where are you, new person? I saw you. I saw an N from Brenda. Hello, Brenda. It is great that you're joining us wherever you are. I hope you are making a connection through this presentation because ultimately it's all about connections. I am so happy to see my dear friend Michael Buford from Bravos and Science TV taking a well-deserved vacation. Cheers to you in Tokyo. Have a great time and come back healthy and energized and with new recipes too. Gina Hendricks, who is a lot about alternative. I'm glad you're watching, Gina, because I know the type of healing things that interest you, and I think you will find this really fascinating. It is definitely very interesting. Then there is a question here from my friend Sherry, who says, is this similar to a life coach and what that they try to achieve without being connected to something? Is this similar to having a life coach?
So it's similar to a life coach in that you need to show up. And we've talked a lot about showing up, right? With technology these days, sometimes we can be connected in online communities, and there's certainly a place for that. But sometimes we don't get out of our four walls, right? To go out and greet people and meet people, or take the first step and walk through the door of neurofeedback, right? And so in terms of a life coach, we need to have a conversation, but really it's your journey. And I am simply your trainer. I'm providing the service to you. It's your personal journey. And you'll be surprised what your brain wants to work on. You might have concerns around fatigue or forgetfulness or anxiety. But as we go through the sessions, your brain is working on other, potentially other areas, right? So it's something that when you go through brain training, you don't forget it. It's like riding a bike. But it's something that it's typically a duration of 5, 10, 15 sessions. Some people go on and they do it for the rest of their life, or they rent a device at home for their family. But really, it's typically a set number of sessions, and then people go on their merry way, feeling better, and then have check-ins and tune-ups.
Check-ins and tune-ups. That's what I'm loving about it. And by the way, you got a kick out of something that just came out of my mouth just 2 sessions ago. And I'm going to revisit it because you asked me to. When I am sitting at the wonderful chair that I'll never have because of Luna, I'm connected and I'm wired and I have the headphones on, and I don't fall asleep because I let thoughts and ideas just gently flow in and out of my head on their own. And I remember you asked me, so what's going on in there? And my analogy was, I feel like I'm folding ideas as I was folding laundry. It's like if an idea comes to my mindset, or I become aware of a specific idea or challenge or problem or chore or deadline, it doesn't seem as overwhelming. I simply take a look at it and I fold it and I just put it in the proper pile. So, and you thought that was like big inspiration. It just came out of my mouth, but that's really the way neurofeedback has affected me. When I'm taking the sessions, it's like my reward that allows me to organize my thoughts.
Well, when you shared that idea, my brain went to a dryer, right? So you have this dryer drying clothes. These are all of your thoughts jumbled and keep going and going. And you were folding your thoughts, right? Putting them into their particular buckets. And in that process, calming your nerves, calming your central nervous system. And you also took it a step further. And you said, there's some laundry that I'm going to deal with, and there's other laundry that I'll put off to the side.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great way to not feel overwhelmed with everything that we have to deal with in life, and that you were helping to prioritize. These are my issues I can think about and work on, and there are others I'm going to set off to the side. So I thought the folding laundry was just a beautifully clean concept.
I love it. There's more questions here, and you're kind of touching base on some of this. Gary Green, hello, Gary. Gary Green says normal amount of sessions, frequency of sessions, and cost. What is your take on all of that?
Those are all great questions, and I get to ask those all the time. I'll first start by saying your first session is your last session, meaning that your brain is ever changing. So what the experience that you have now and the training that you have now is going to be different than the session that you have in a week. You can have a session every day, or once a week, or once every 2 weeks, or 2 times a day. It really depends on the time that you have available and that you want to commit to neurofeedback. Typically, though, people, they typically buy a package of 5 or 10 sessions, and they come once a week or maybe twice a week. And so that's typically the rhythm of it. And then in terms of cost, our neurofeedback sessions start at 500 pesos, and then we have package deals that we have available also.
Yay. Now, let's see what else we have. Dale also asked about the cost for each session, and you just answered that. Diane is new, fascinating information. Thank you. Welcome, Diane. This is what we try to do, create great connections for those of us that are living here. Although I'm also happy to hear from Brenda, who is here in Puerto Vallarta from Canada. Thank you for highlighting this topic. You know, Brenda, I'm sure you will find neurofeedback practitioners in your area. And I did happen to take a peek into the website of the service that you represent. And I was happy to see that there's a directory of practitioners.
Yes.
So there are many people all over the world, and you're the only one in Puerto Vallarta.
So I'm the only one in Mexico, actually.
Oh,
and
really?
So I get phone calls, and we provided services for people in Guadalajara and Baja. And so it's thrilling to have this down here. And Brenda, happy to talk to you about your interest in neurofeedback. And I get calls from across the United States. And so if I can't help people, then I have a close network of individuals who can.
There's another question here. Is there a medical history form completed before?
That's a great question. So neurooptimal neurofeedback is classified by the FDA, the US FDA, as a wellness device. It's not a medical device, and that's a really important distinction because there is not a diagnosis needed. So we can't say that we're going to fix something or to treat something. This is brain training for you to develop, have different outcomes, or as we like to say, self-regulate. Regulate your emotions, regulate your behaviors. This allows for you to have a better sense of regulation.
Are we missing anything? Not that I'm rushing things.
No.
I think this is a very important topic. I think a lot of times we disregard or don't pay enough attention to what's happening up here and how it connects to the rest.
So when we were looking at neurofeedback in Puerto Vallarta, right, I was interested. So what was my market going to be? Who are the people who are going to be interested in this? And I was thinking children, because children these days have so much coming at them, and they're learning so much that this is a real opportunity to help families. So that was one market. Second market was professionals like you and I who are busy, and we have things that are going on, and we wanted to be of service to individuals that have moved down here, and they might have had some trauma in their past, or they moved down here and it's simply new to them, and they might be isolated. They haven't developed this network, or they moved down here to work through some of the more alternative medical solutions down here and holistic solutions. So that was the second market. And then the third one is one that's also near and dear to my heart, because I've worked with seniors in my career, whether it was in architecture and working in senior housing, or one of my first jobs working for a nonprofit dealing with elder issues, and that is the older adults. And I think that older adults, especially down here, they might feel isolated. They might have concerns about cognitive issues, and that's where neurofeedback can help with cognitive issues, forgetfulness, and the anxiety that comes with that and aging. And we really want to be of service down here for people to age in place and age in place with dignity.
You know, I'm sure I'm not the only person that, and I'm going to get a little personal, but I'm sure I'm not the only person that gets a certain extra nudge of safety when dealing with someone for whom animals are dear. And I was quite tickled when somebody wrote a comment about you and described you as a pug man. Could you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I sure can. So at our house, we have 3 pugs. As I mentioned, it's called a grumble. They're all rescues, and we continue to rescue pugs off the street when we can. We have another pug coming in. He's in really bad shape, and where he's at a vet right now getting his medications, and soon to become an it rather than a boy. And then we'll bring him into our household. And really, we want to have what I call the underground railroad of pugs up to the U.S. Those pugs that we can find a forever home up in the U.S. so that we can help the very next pug who's struggling down here. So that's what I do in my off time.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I trust anybody that feels strongly about animals, and I strongly feel safe and comfortable when I go to my sessions. I think this might be a good time to share information about the giveaway. While you are thinking of your last questions, we're going to do 2 things. First of all, I want to, what? Oh. Robert says, what? We're getting another.
Oh.
This is your husband?
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
Hello. Dogs out of the bag.
Uh-oh. Okay, let me ask you once again. We're going to have a giveaway. Good catch, Mr. Husband. We're going to have a giveaway. You are going to give away.
Yes, so we are offering a 20% off for individual and package sessions for anyone who's watching this show.
Okay, so the way this is going to work here at the spot, what is this show called? The Spotlight. Is you need to write the magic word on your comment. And we decided that the magic word is brain. So if you write the word brain in your comment, you will be eligible to either 20% on one session or 20% in a package of sessions. So while this is happening, once again, have I forgotten to touch base on anything that is important for you to convey to the wonderful audience we have?
So what I'd say in terms of that offer that we have, the 20% off, anyone can come in for a complimentary session. You have to see if it's right for you. This is your journey, and we want to be a part of it. And if it makes sense for you after your first session, then we can talk about the next steps. But the first point, the first part that we want to do is just make sure it's right for you and that you feel comfortable with neurofeedback. And so we'll schedule an appointment, come in, we'll go through that whole series that you went through in terms of looking at your concerns and then talking about the shifts that you want to make in life. And from there, then you'll have a session and then we'll see where we want to go from there. So that 20% deal can always start with a complimentary session.
Yes, excellent. For the record, this is something that I think is important to talk about, and we talked about this on Monday. I'm going through a very insightful, what I'm calling Paco 2.0 transportation that started about a couple of months ago when I discovered the wonderful work of psychologist Dr. Elaine Aron, and I read her book on highly sensitive people. So for me, neurofeedback has been one of several positive changes that I'm making in my life. I'm meditating on a regular basis. And I'm going through my neurofeedback sessions, and I'm doing a lot of other things that are important. But do clarify, is neurofeedback going to make all the problems disappear on its own? I didn't think
No.
so. But please make
No.
sure that
But-
people understand this.
But it helps you to respond to problems differently. So, the issues of life still come up, right? Rent, jobs, family, spouses, having too many pugs in your life. But this helps you to respond differently and hopefully better, so you can regulate your emotions and interact differently, have different choices.
Excellent. Well, I'm happy. Something else?
Yeah, I will say that, we started this conversation back in February. So I have to give you props for opening up to the community about your
Highly
highly sensitive
personality.
personality. Yes. And that's when I reached out to you, because it really touched me when you shared that so publicly, because people often don't. And so I have to give kudos to you for sharing that with the community. I think it's so important to remove the veil, and show up as we are, because people will, they'll surround you with opportunities for healing.
Well, as long as we're in the subject, and since this is only the second time that I've spoken about it publicly, yes, about 2 months ago, I discovered the trait. It is highly sensitive person. It is a trait. It's not a disease. It happens to 20% of the population. And it also does not mean that I'm more emotional, although I happen to be. It is a trait that affects 20% of the population. It was first researched by psychologist Dr. Elaine Aron, who wrote the definitive book about it. And since she identified this trait, many other mental health professionals have taken to researching highly sensitive people. And I've been reading several books about it. And it's so wonderful, because what the knowledge has given me is the opportunity to reframe events, situations in the past of my life that I might have handled differently if I was aware of the trait. And the way I came about feeling or knowing that the trait applied to me is because there is a test that you can take. It's about 24 questions. You answer yes or no to the questions, and if you answer a certain number of those questions as positive or as a yes, then chances are you are a highly sensitive person. And that's what happened to me. The first week was frightening, because I was like, oh shit, what am I going to do with this? And now it's something that is probably the most insightful self-awareness discovery I've made in all of my adult life. I cannot take back 30 or 40 years of being the way I am or reacting the way I reacted to certain things. But I'm grateful that I was able to discover this when I'm still kicking and hanging out. But it's not about me. It's about the giveaway. It's about the giveaway. But I did want to mention that out there. If you've heard about highly sensitive people, if you think you're a highly sensitive person, if you think we should have a network here in Puerto Vallarta, then just drop me a line. Drop me a line, because there are great networks in other cities.
So
Yes.
we talked about connections,
Yes.
right? In one of our first conversations, right? And about showing up.
Yes.
And you show up obviously every day, right? And you share that information. That's a sign of showing up. And I think that we could use more of that, more showing up. And I think that for me, when I show up to an event that's out in the community, there's a bit of you're given a piece of yourself, right? And I think that that we could use more of that in terms of showing up.
Showing up are two beautiful words. We all need to show up more. And show up can be show up to an event, or it can be show up to yourself when you wake up in the morning.
Right.
Show up to embrace whatever you have to do every day. And you're right. I mean, we talked about this early on. It was absolutely mind-blowing. It really was. I see another question here. Still continuing to collect brains, and I see that there's a lot of brains out there. I love it. I just saw Beetlejuice last night, and there was a lot of brains there too. Can you post information and reading material on highly sensitive people? Diane, I would be happy to do it. Let me take that as homework and I will discuss it in tomorrow's Coffee and Headlines. If I already said it, I might as well really talk about it. I don't have the website in front of me, but I'll be happy to, oh, actually, tell a good story.
Sure. Yes. Yes. I guess what I would say is, if you're interested in neurofeedback, show up. Let's have a conversation. And I love to listen, and I want to be of service. And we'll see how we can help you. So if you're feeling lost, if life is fuzzy, if life has lost its color or luster, if you feel like you're just off, I would love to have a conversation, and we can see how we can help you to regain that color and vibrancy in your life.
Okay, keep going, keep going.
And also, I'll talk about, so I had one client who had a device at home, and we created an accountability buddy program. It was an overlay. No one else does that that I know of in neurofeedback, but basically we had weekly check-ins. And the check-ins helped us to talk about, talk about 1 week to the next week and defining goals. So for example, she was concerned about too much sugar in her diet. And we flipped that on its head, and we said, well, instead of worrying about your diet, why don't you go to the gym? And so we actually went to the gym together. So there's all kinds of ways to show up and engage, and we're open to all kinds of opportunities to help individuals.
Excellent. Okay, now I'm back. While you were sharing that information, Diane, I went looking for Dr. Elaine Aron's website, and it is hsperson.com. H as in hungry, S as in sassy, person.com. And you will find a wealth of resources there, the books that Dr. Aron has published, and you will also find a self-diagnosis test, which can help you identify whether you have the trait or not, and to what level of intensity. I'm losing my voice. I think it's time to do our drawing. And the way it's going to work is, let me put it up on the screen, and I am going to see that, let me refresh this to see how many people have chosen. Hold on. Brain, and we start collecting, and we have only 5 entries. I thought I saw more people write the word brain. Let me check in your comments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, somebody wrote brain with an exclamation mark, and I don't think it's reading it. So last chance for the word brain. Okay, it's still at 5. Let's do this drawing, and the person that wins a 20% discount on one session or a package is, drum roll, Gary Green. Hooray! Yay! This is awesome. Congratulations, Gary. You are the happy winner of this. Please connect directly with Stan so that you can figure out how, when, and where to do this. And if you need any help with that connection, I'll be happy to help facilitate. Stan, any parting thoughts?
It's good to be a part of the Puerto Vallarta community. It's good to be of service in this community. There's people move down here for so many reasons. They want to start a new life. They want to retire. They want to get away from the whatever it is north of the border. And so you come down here and you don't necessarily know what you're going to get. And so we just want to be a part of an opportunity for people to connect as like what you offer, but then also be an opportunity for a pathway towards better living, really.
Excellent. Before we leave, a quick reminder, if you are in Puerto Vallarta, tomorrow we will have our very own Mexican Independence Party right here at the Joan Boutique Hotel with my music appreciation presentation, Viva Mexico. We'll talk about music related to the independence, culture, great stories about Mexico's history and Mexico's legacy. So if you've nowhere else to go, tomorrow at 5 o'clock, right here at the Joint, in air-conditioned comfort, we are going to get Mexican. Stan, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Audience, thank you so much for being here. And thank you all who watched the Spotlight. Please spread the word. Please let other organizers and service providers and event organizers and artists, nonprofits, if you have something wonderful that people should know about, it's free. It feels good, right?
Yes.
And, it is fun. So this was the Spotlight for today. Next week, we're going to have a local author discussing her book. And I will have details about you through the week so that you can learn more about this. Between now and then, if I don't see you, I'll see you next Wednesday. But hopefully, I will see you also tomorrow morning for coffee and headlines. Have a good night.